Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech Time Today. I am your host, Jeff Welpley, and with me we have again Jesse Vu, who has joined. He was on last episode as well. How are you doing, Jesse? What's been happening?
I'm doing good. I just got back from spring break. It was a lot of fun. Kind of talked to you already about it, and I'm just getting into the last bit of my final semester at WPI. Gearing up really for the job search. Doing a lot with that. Going to my career counseling and just one more distributed systems class to get out of the way, and then we're pretty much out of college.
Oh,
It's kind of
almost
crazy.
there, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
First up is talking about the cost of AI. And there was a couple of things that's happened this past week, past couple of weeks, that I thought was interesting to give some background here. And then I'd love to hear kind of some of your thoughts and experience with this type of thing. You know, it's very well known that the different tech companies are subsidizing the true cost of AI, that, you know, your $100 a month Claude Max plan, if you're using it all the time, you are definitely burning through more money. Like it's costing Anthropic more to service that $100 plan than actually what you're paying. Yeah, Jesse, I feel like you're a sort of beneficiary of some of that subsidization. That, you know, what's your overall kind of thoughts on the cost now and how it's been set up now to try to get people into it?
Yeah, so I think this is actually where my perspective as a student is, I guess, helpful here because, I mean, obviously everybody knows you're a broke college student, you don't have a lot of money, and I'm using the $20 regular Claude plan and then like the free Google Gemini and the Cursor like student subscriptions, and with all that together, like for my like average work, I don't really go past that, but I think it's because it's so generous. Like I think that with the $20 subscription to any of the, or honestly really any big AI service is usually enough to help you where you need to be, like with your education. But if you want to actually try to experiment with it or work on projects yourself, that's when it starts getting a little more expensive.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple interesting things here. I mean, one thing is, although on the API usage, like if you're using it from any LLM calls from through an API, you're already probably very well tuned to like how that's more like true to cost of what the cost of servicing that those LLM calls are. And so you are probably more consciously using, for example, lower cost models for certain cases. The problem where it runs into is more like for the developer usage and like your personal usage on the Claude Max plan or whatever other plan that you're on, Google Gemini Pro, whatever. It's much more profitable to focus on the business side of like giving services to business to support building their apps and whatever else. The consumer side, Google, I don't know if this is true. I have no inside knowledge or whatever, but just read an article that Google was looking into whether they should include ads within their consumer side Gemini products as well. Which again, this is all related to what we're saying, like just to make it more economical. And I don't know, I'm surprised they haven't started doing that yet. I feel like both OpenAI and Google are the ones who are kind of like toying with that idea. I'm sure behind the scenes they're probably experimenting. So who knows? But that'll be a little bit weird whenever, if and when there are ads in some of those consumer side AI products.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what it points to is like, in fact, kind of getting our conversation to the point of our conversation, like these big companies are trying to figure out a way to monetize these models which are losing them money. They have to figure out how to bridge that gap, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to be kind of in the future, and if it's going to be like something that is really only available to people in enterprise, or is still readily available to people like students or the general users. I'm not sure about the exact like security violation that happened, but from my understanding, like the most recent version that people were downloading like package managers had some kind of security vulnerability which leaked like API keys, environment variables, you know, a lot of sensitive information. That's kind of what I saw, but I haven't done too much more digging into it exactly. And I don't think, do you know anything about like the exact security like vulnerability or?
What happened was the hacker got access to the main maintainer's credentials. I don't know the details of how that happened. And then they basically added some software there that when, yeah, like you were starting to say, when they people installed the package, then it did some searches locally in their machine to try to steal, any some private information, including like credentials and that type of thing.
I think they were actually successful, right? Successful in a couple of cases, right? Like a lot of people got their information leaked. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's scary. And it's like we have this inherent trust with, I mean, so this is AI related, but also just a note that this particular type of issue has happened before, just historically with, I mean, just coming from the node world, JavaScript node world with NPM, there have been in the past somewhat similar issues to this, not as bad. And I think the thing with where AI comes into this is that AI just sort of exacerbates things on a number of levels. The hackers, the bad actors are using various AI tools to try to make it easier to get your private information. Everything's kind of sort of on steroids, in some degree, for every aspect of this. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I guess one thing I would mention that I did see someone talking about, which I agree with, and I do this in my own code to some degree. One is to pin all your versions. That's like a good general practice that you are using different software and you aren't doing .star or like when it installs it just gets the latest, like you're actually installing like a specific version. And then number two, I think it does help just like not installing new versions right away. Like I did see a general rule that one other guy in the various forums was mentioning, that they wait a certain time period, like I don't know whether it's a month, 2 months or whatever it is, like some time period after new versions come out, that like in theory that gives it time to find stuff like this, because people did find it relatively quickly. It was like within a couple days. And so like just putting some type of buffer like that with pinning probably solves most of the potential issues, I would think.
As someone who's been in the industry both before AI and has written enterprise level code, yeah, how can I as a programmer avoid technical debt in like my projects and like especially when I'm working with AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that, to be quite honest, I was literally thinking about this just these past couple of days, because we've been doing so the past month. We've gotten to a point where each of me and my two other coworkers, three of us, have been putting into collectively between 10 to 25 different PRs a day. It's been insane. And so when you do that much and you move so fast, inevitably, like, yeah, I mean, we cannot check every single line of code. Like we do code reviews for sure. But I mean, there's just like no way. So we rely on some AI to help us with code reviews and whatever else. But stuff does pile up or whatever. And so actually the past couple of days, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from my business goals, my business objectives I was trying to achieve. And just like I have done many times in the past, I spent some time paying down technical debt. And it's not something I thought about before with AI related stuff, but actually it was kind of nice, because the great thing is, I mean, for all the reasons why other coding stuff with AI, like when you're paying down technical debt, you could do things that you didn't even consider before. So like, just as one quick example, okay, I knew I wanted to just like improve the overall readability of the code base and the ability to maintain it and yada yada yada. So yeah, I mean, of course, I had my own ideas, but then I also asked like um, both Gemini and Claude, because I usually ask at least two different models. What are some ideas that you guys have for like to make this more maintainable, or whatever? Uh, and one thing I didn't think about initially, just because I know from doing this manually, it's like way too much work. They're like, oh, actually, if you turn on strict mode in TypeScript, this will actually like help a huge deal or whatever. And I would never do that manually, because when you turn on strict mode, if you haven't already had it, is like you have to change. I mean, God, like almost every single file in your code, because inevitably, like there are you were using loose typing for TypeScript, but I understand why both Gemini and Claude recommended this, because when you do have strict typing enabled, like you avoid like a lot of like various issues. Like it forces the agentic coding agent to be more careful, etc. And so like we did some analysis back and forth, and like I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a lot of changes, but yeah, let's go for it. And sorry, the other thing leading up to that too is like obviously unit testing and whatever. And so I'd already over the past month been adding tons of additional testing, unit and integration tests and end-to-end tests, to make sure that I wasn't breaking anything. I think that's a critical part of avoiding breaking your system. But then it also allows you to do these technical debt, paying down technical debt, because then you can make these massive refactorings without and feel comfortable that you're not breaking anything. And so yeah, basically over the course of like a couple days, I probably through a series of these technical debt related PRs, like refactored almost every piece of code in our code base. But now, yeah, like it cleaned up a whole bunch of stuff. So to answer your question, I think that's the thing is to, just like you would without AI, the key is to build into the stuff that you're doing, make sure you pay down the technical debt, that you are like actually handling it and you're not just ignoring it forever until it builds up beyond anything you can do about it.